The corridors of the Belmont spindle still smelled faintly of cinnamon. The scent had been pumped through the ventilation ducts years earlier, a psychological comfort sponsored by whichever boutique conglomerate owned the habitat that month. Since then, most of the luxuries had been shut down to save power, but the cinnamon clung to the polymer walls like an old ghost, reminding everyone of the station's original promise, orbiting paradise while Earth healed from the burn-off wars. Mara Pell remembered none of the parties that had once filled the gardens and casinos. She remembered the crawl space behind Pantry 4, the one she'd squeezed into at 8 years old after climbing a cargo net during the mayhem of final liftoff. For 8 days she had survived on leaking drink bulbs and stolen biscuits before the stewards found her. They'd intended to jettison her in a rescue capsule back toward the scorched planet, but the padlocks were already fused and the trajectory windows had closed. So Mara, the unwanted stowaway, was absorbed into the habitat's maintenance cast. She learned quickly that paradise had a basement, and the basement was where people like her lived. Now 16, Mara floated at Node C, boots maglocked to a maintenance girder while her fingers worked a panel of cracked touch plastic. Just above her, the station's central axis, normally humming at precisely 2 RPM to mimic Luna's gravity, was silent. The spin had been throttled back 3 weeks ago when sector harmonics showed wobble. Yesterday, the flywheels failed altogether. The consequences were immediate. Everyone who had been able still kept themselves fit with daily grav runs, but even a quarter G had preserved their bone density only marginally. Without any spin, muscles weakened in hours. Children stumbled through corridors like limp puppets. Old investors, once so smug in their reclining massage thrones, now gasped behind oxygen cannulas as osteoporotic ribs fractured under the strain of a simple cough. Mara keyed a diagnostic. The screen pulsed red across subsystem after subsystem. She bit the inside of her cheek. "We're out of time," she whispered. A voice crackled through her ear rig. "That you, Pell?" "Here, Shiv." She checked around for eavesdroppers. Habit, not paranoia. Shivani Kirtish was chief of Section Blue, the misfit crew tasked with keeping basic life support running. "I'm seeing the same numbers," Shiv said. "Command still claims they can restart the spin once the counterweights are patched." "Counterweights are dust," Mara replied. "Tell me something I don't know." "Tell me Command doesn't," Mara muttered. Silence. Through the transparent corridor dome, Mara caught sight of the planet. From this altitude, 600 kilometers, a graveyard orbit slightly higher than the old ISS Earth stretched blue and green, the scars of the wars faint now, like knitted wounds. Cloud swirls glowed with sunrise. Long-range telescopes had confirmed it a year ago. Fisheries were recovering, the radiation bands thinning. Oxygen thickness was nearly pre-war. The home world was healing far faster than the governors had predicted. The problem was returning. The habitats had escape pods built for evacuation, but the wealthy board still refused to open them. While the planet remained officially uninhabitable, Belmont investors could keep their private kingdom aloft and continue charging extortionate berth fees to whichever desperate refugee flotillas might still appear. If the board admitted Earth was ready, their monopoly vanished. Mara unclipped her boots and pushed off, gliding down the axis toward Central Ward. As she passed each junction, she spotted more bodies, tethered in bags, makeshift sickbeds, where once there had been floating champagne bubbles. Her friends from Section Blue waited in Shadow Bay, the unofficial meeting spot shielded from surveil cams by an overgrown vine wall. They greeted her with weak salutes. Jock, the welder whose right arm trembled now whenever he tried to lift a spanner, had tears in his eyes. "2 more fractures," he said. "Grandmama Montrose and Steward Lou. Rib clusters, same as the others." Mara inhaled. "We can't wait for the board's miracle. The only gravity we'll get is down there." She pointed toward the planet, visible beyond the bay's viewport. "Pods can land safely," said Delka, the youngest engineer, voice quavering. "Every simulation we run shows 67% survival." 67, Jack grimaced. Mara leaned forward, eyes fierce. "Better odds than 0. You know what happens if we stay. Bones like chalk, Hearts thinning. We'll be dead before 20. Shivani spoke next. The board has armed wardens on command deck. They'll vent us before they let you near the nav console. Mara unzipped a data core from her sleeve and tossed it onto the table. The core tumbled, bumped against a strap and spun. Firmware for the docking clamps, she said. I've spent the last month rewriting them. We don't need command deck. We jettison the habitation rings as re-entry halos, ride them down like ancient space shuttles. The thrusters on Ring 3 can deorbit the entire spindle. Jack's mouth opened. That's 5,000 souls aboard a flying skyscraper, Mara. If your math is off. My math is right. Her voice cracked only a little. We are out of choices. The rich can hide behind their security teams, but the rings are ours to maintain. Without our hands, nothing works, not even their precious wine dispensers. I say we pull the plug. Silence stretched. Somewhere above, a hummingbird bot zipped past, wings whirring uselessly in 0G. It collided with a girder and drifted. Finally, Shiv nodded. I'm with you. One by one, the others followed. That night, Mara stole through the arterial tubes like blood through veins. She rerouted coolant loops. Until freezer alarms howled in board members' suites, forcing them to scramble for safe rooms. She hijacked a comms dish to broadcast Earth surface footage, lush forests near the old Andes, dolphins leaping in the Arabian Gulf to every public holoscreen, undermining the official narrative of ruin. And she seeded rumors in chat tunnels. Artificial gravity failure was irreversible. An evacuation plan was ready, but leadership refused to authorize it. Fear rippled through the population. In microgravity, fear had a peculiar way of manifesting. People drifted in knots, whispering over wrist sets, bumping gently into bulkheads, low mass making every confrontation seem dreamlike. But the tension was real. Day 3, the board issued a lockdown. Mag boots were restricted. Any unauthorized contact with propulsion arrays became a court-martial offense. Unfortunately for the board, court-martials required functional brig power, and Section Blue controlled the brig. Mara met her final ally in the least expected place, the Constellation Lounge. Once, celebrities had waltzed along its spinning dance floor. Now the curved windows were so scratched by mycometeorites they resembled frosted glass. A single figure hovered, limbs thin as thread. It was Oliver Gray, the chief astrogator, one of the elite, but older than most, with a poet's sad eyes. Your pal, Gray said. Depends who's asking. He smiled faintly. I heard what you're planning. The board thinks you're a vandal. I think you might be the first real captain this station's ever had. Mara swallowed surprise. You'll be court-martialed for saying that. Breeks closed, he reminded her. Listen, I've plotted a descent corridor for the spindle's core. He extended a holo wafer. Your thruster math saves fuel, but you need to compensate for the mass distribution once rings 1 and 2 detach. It's doable. Risky, but everything is now. I'll ride with you, if you'll have me. Mara looked at his outstretched hand. She saw tremor in his fingers, microgravity palsy. In another month, he wouldn't be able to clasp anything. She clasped anyway. Welcome to Section Blue. The operation unfolded across 48 sleepless hours. Maintenance crews rewired control loops, rerouted thruster commands to handheld tablets, and welded override plugs onto the docking latches so the board couldn't clamp them from above. Shivani drafted a manifesto that repeated through station intercoms. Home is down. Gravity is life. Volunteers packed survival kits, dried protein, ultraviolet water tabs, heritage seed packets gleamed from hydroponics boxes, paws into fabric rolls that could double as landing cushion. When Command Deck realized the revolt was not mere sabotage but exodus, they threatened to vent oxygen to the maintenance bays. Jack anticipated the move. He'd cracked the deck's environmental valve controls days earlier. The board's golden panic burst like sparks through the commnet. Resort barons who had bought lifetime passes screamed at technicians to restore normalcy. Technicians, their bones aching, logged off. Mara's greatest fear was the wardens, 42 ex-military contractors armed with pulse rifles. They were loyal to payroll, not ideology, and the board still had money. Mara hoped to avoid bloodshed, but Shiv warned her. They'll shoot. Then we must make them choose sides before trigger time, Mara said. On launch day, with Earth rising huge outside every viewport, Mara sent her final transmission. A medical dossier compiled by the station's own doctors showing projected degeneration curves. Every resident could expect heart failure within 6 months if spin wasn't restored. She signed the file not with her name but with a single equation, G equals 9.81 m/SSS. Isaac reached out to smile at her, but was hushed by a whispered scream from outside. All of his efforts to speak failed. Wardens read the report too. Maybe it was self-interest, maybe it was conscience, but when they arrived at Ring 3's spin motor to secure it, half laid down their rifles. The other half kept marching. No one liked mutiny. A scuffle erupted. Tethers tangled, a stun baton flashed blue, and one rifle discharged, the slug ricocheting off an alloy plate and puncturing a water main. Jets of liquid sprayed, fixing droplets across faces. The fight ended when Senior Warden Ranald, against orders, opened his visor and let water spheres drift into his mouth. "Tastes like nothing," he murmured, and lowered his weapon. The stalemate became a walkout. The board was alone. 30 minutes to burn. Mara felt the spindle vibrate as thruster banks warmed, an unfamiliar tremor after months of spin silence. She floated inside the Ring 3 control blister, strapped into a shock couch clipped vertically against the transparent wall. Through it, Earth rotated slowly. No, she realized, the station was pitching now, nose dipping toward the horizon. Fire of dawn. "Guidance green?" she asked. Oliver's voice answered from the adjoining couch. "Green checks. Detachment sequence armed." "Rings 1 and 2 report ready," Shiv added over comms. "All crew to couches," Mara ordered. Peak drummed in her ears. Her first launch had been as a child sobbing in a vent shaft. But with Androsh, Shiv had been, or this would be her first landing, and she was captain. Burn. The station lurched. Even through dampers, Mara felt the shove. Her first taste of accelerating mass under her since childhood. Artificial gravity from spin produced a sideways tug. This was different, a direct pull through her chest. Muscles unused to weight screamed along her spine. Tears sprang not from pain but from memory, playing on a dusty hillside before mushroom clouds erased it. "Primary Delta V nominal," Oliver reported, voice tight. Above them, explosive bolts fired. A dull bang, then the whir of magnetic rails releasing. "Ring 2 detached," Dalco called. Seconds later, Ring 1 free and stable. Mara checked holotelemetry. Huge torus habitats peeled away like petals, each carrying evacuees strapped into couches where casinos had once glistened. Thrusters on their rims flared, nudging them into slightly varied trajectories for atmospheric entry. They'd act as heat shields, burning sacrificial layers of plating so the inner gardens and passengers could survive. Ancient, terrible, brilliant. Her own ring, still coupled to the spindle's stern where the fusion reactor hummed, led the descent. Plasma built along the hull. The viewport brightened into orange glare. Mara's restraints crushed her shoulders, real gravity rising from Earth's embrace. She laughed, wild and involuntary, as 100 kilos of her body reawakened. "Heat levels spiking," Shiv reported. "Hull integrity 80%. "Hold course," Mara said. They knifed deeper. Structures groaned. Somewhere behind, a coolant conduit ruptured with a howl, venting vapor that flashed outside into flickers of light. Fire traced the girders, formerly polished for aristocratic garden parties. At 50 kilometers altitude, autopilot jettisoned the spindle's rear truss, shedding dead mass so retro engines could brake. Deceleration hammered them 5 Gs, 6. The world shrank to tunnel vision. Mara fought blackness, her hands locked on armrests. She felt bones compress, but they held. Real bones, she thought, not chalk yet. When pressure eased, she blinked. The viewport cleared, now only red glow. Then clouds, real clouds, thick and white and rumbling, hiding the planet like curtains before a show. "Parachute sequence armed," Oliver said. Silhouettes of Ring 1 and 2 streaked through the troposphere ahead, their ablative skins in flaming ribbons but still intact. Mara's chest filled with pride. "Deploy chutes," she ordered. Explosive hisses shuddered. Gigantic aerobrakes unfurled. Membranes spun from spider silk composites, catching air, blooming above the broken luxury habitat like strange jellyfish. Descent slowed to a glide. Ice crystals from boiled coolant sparkled in their wake. They broke through clouds at 2,000 meters. Below stretched rolling savanna, flushed green gold by dawn. Herds of antelope, real, living antelope, dashed in clumps, startled by the descending titan. Rivers coiled silver. Far in the east, the skeleton of an old city lay half submerged but vibrant with vegetation. Earth had not simply healed, it had transformed. Tears floated off Mara's cheeks and drifted until gravity tugged them into droplets that splashed back onto her visor. "Landing site in sight," Shiv announced. "Retro thrusters on standby." Mara opened interring comms. "All rings, listen up. You were promised paradise in the sky. It was a lie. Paradise was always here. Brace for touchdown and welcome home." At 70 meters, retro thrusters fired dust storms across grassland. Metal groaned again as what remained of the Belmont spindle settled like some colossal humbled monument. Impact jolted them, but shock feet and collapsed corridors absorbed the worst. Silence followed. Heavy, actual silence filled, not with fans or pumps, but with chirping from outside, a sound the habitat's archives had labeled birds. Mara unbuckled. Her knees trembled under full gravity, yet held. She stood, wobbly, euphoric. "Pressure equalization reading good," Dalka said. "Atmosphere is clean." Oliver unlocked the hatch. It swung outward on manual hinges. Warm air rushed in, scented with soil and blossoms so vivid, Mara's lungs forgot to exhale. She took the first step onto the cracked hull outside, boots clanging on scorched alloy, then onto the earth itself, soft loam that yielded under weight, carrying her own imprint for the first time in 8 years. Section Blue filed after her, each face shining with sweat and disbelief. In the distance, similar hatches opened along the toppled rings, and thousands poured out. Former stewards and bartenders, toddlers gripping parents' hands, even some wardens who'd crossed over at the last minute. Among them, a few board members stumbled, stunned by gravity, gazing at a horizon they had tried so hard to deny. The sun edged over the plains. Light bathed Mara's shoulders, heavier than any artificial lamp. She turned to watch the others emerge, these sky exiles now become settlers. Jacqueline beside her. 67%, huh? He said, voice hoarse. Mara grinned. Odds improve once you're on the ground. She knelt and pressed a palm to the earth. Pulses of warmth traveled through skin into bone, bone into marrow, marrow into something deeper. The sense that this world, battered yet resilient, offered second chances. Gravity tugged at her muscles, at her heart, at her future. It hurt. It was perfect. Behind them, the spindle loomed ruined, cinnamon scent finally left behind in the quiet vacuum of memory. Ahead lay rivers to bridge, forests to replant, villages to build. None of the tasks would be easy, but they would be done, holding tools that weighed something, and walking on legs meant to feel the pull of the planet that made them. Mara rose, breath steady, spine aligned by that ancient, patient force. Then she started forward, into the grass that bent and whispered in the wind, leading thousands, no longer castaways, no longer passengers of a failing paradise, but citizens of Gravity Home.